You feel that restless feeling, don't you? That feeling that something inside you is moving, wanting space, asking to come out. I'm familiar with this discomfort that appears when we're about to change. It's like waking up in the middle of the night with your heart racing, not knowing exactly why, but feeling that something important is happening. We've all been there at some point, that feeling of being squeezed in your own skin. I know what it's like when you look in the mirror and don't fully recognize who you are. It's not that you've changed on the outside, but something inside is different, restless, like water boiling under the lid of a saucepan. You try to carry on with your normal routine, breakfast, work, the usual conversations, but you have this feeling that something is about to break. It's as if you're wearing clothes that no longer fit, not because they've shrunk, but because you're growing out of them. The nights get harder too, don't they? Those moments before bed when thoughts run wild. Am I on the right track? Why do I feel so restless? Why does it seem like everything that worked before doesn't work anymore? These are questions that hammer away when the house is silent. We all go through these nights. They are part of the process, like the necessary darkness before dawn. The truth is that these questions don't appear by chance. Perhaps you've noticed that things that used to fulfill you now seem empty. That job that was just good enough now seems to suffocate something inside you. The superficial conversations that once filled your time now leave a taste of "I want more than that." The dreams you kept in the drawer start knocking on the door more forcefully. It's not that you're being ungrateful with what you have. It's just that a deeper part of you is awakening. Remember that feeling when you were a child and your shoes started to squeeze? It didn't happen suddenly. For weeks you felt a slight discomfort that grew until you could no longer ignore it. Physical growth is like that, and so is inner growth. First comes discomfort, then pain, and only then do we realize that we need more space. The difference is that, as adults, we often try to ignore these signs, continuing to wear tight shoes for years. Have you noticed how we've become experts in distractions? The mobile phone we check 100 times a day. The television on even when no one is watching. The little purchases that give us that momentary joy. We don't do this by chance. We do it because feeling the discomfort of growth can be frightening. It's easier to look outside than to face what's going on inside. But deep down, you know that these distractions are just postponements. There are days when you wake up and feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's not laziness or ordinary sadness. It's the weight of the coming transformation. Like a butterfly still in its cocoon, you're carrying the weight of your future wings before you even see them. It sounds contradictory, but what will set you free first will weigh you down. What will give you flight first will make you feel like you can barely move. When we talk to friends, we rarely talk about these moments, do we? We say "I'm fine" or "I'm just a bit tired." But the truth is more complex. You're in the middle of a natural and necessary process, like a seed that needs to break out of its shell in order to grow. The seed isn't sick when it breaks in half. It's actually starting to become what it was always meant to be. In a way, we are all seeds waiting for the right moment to break through. Perhaps you've tried to go back to normal, to that previous state when everything seemed simpler. You try to convince yourself, "I'll go back to the way things were before." But it's like trying to turn back a river. The discomfort you feel is not a mistake to be corrected, but a call to be answered. In the silence of the early morning, somewhere inside you, there is a wisdom that already knows this. A part of you already understands that there is no turning back, only a way forward. You know that feeling of being caught between two worlds? One foot in what you know and the other in the unknown? That's exactly where the transformation happens. In that uncomfortable space between what you were and what you are becoming. It's like being in a waiting room between two lives, a place that's necessary, but not meant to be. And although it may seem lonely, there are more people in that same room than you realize. All at different stages of the same journey. The modern world hasn't taught us how to deal well with transformation. We've been trained to seek comfort, stability, and certainty. We've been told that growing up is something you do up to a certain point and then stop. But life knows better. It understands that growing up is a never-ending process that happens in cycles, like the seasons. And just as winter doesn't ask if we're ready for it, the cycles of transformation don't wait for our permission to begin. There is ancient wisdom in cultures that celebrate rites of passage. They understood something we've forgotten, that transforming hurts, that being born again is a process that requires space and time. In indigenous tribes, when a young person was about to become an adult, the whole community would recognize, yes, this will be difficult. Yes, it will hurt. And yes, on the other side, you will be more than you are now. Perhaps that's what you need to hear most today. Your pain isn't a mistake, it's a birth. The strongest version of you is trying to be born. Have you ever watched a caterpillar enter its cocoon? It's fascinating to think that inside that apparently immovable structure, there is a complete dissolution taking place. The caterpillar doesn't just grow wings, it almost completely falls apart before rebuilding itself. Nature shows us that in order to truly change, we need to accept a period of dissolution. A time when we are no longer what we were, but not yet what we will be. It's a strange place to inhabit, this in-between place of no longer being and not yet being. Think of the trees during autumn. They don't cling desperately to their leaves. There is an ancient wisdom in them that says, to grow again in spring, I need to let go now. The leaves don't fall because they are dead, they're released so that something new can emerge when the time is right. How often do we try to hold on to parts of ourselves that have already fulfilled their purpose? Relationships that have run their course. Beliefs that no longer serve us. Identities that have become too small for who we are becoming. If you've ever baked bread, you know that the critical moment isn't when you mix the ingredients or when it finally goes into the oven. It's that seemingly unproductive time when the dough needs to rest and rise. It seems that nothing is happening, but in fact everything is happening. The most important transformations in life are like this. They happen in silence, when it seems like we're just waiting, when we feel like we've lost control. But beneath the surface, powerful forces are at work. Have you ever noticed people who have experienced great losses or challenges? There's something in their eyes, a depth that wasn't there before. It's not that they chose the difficulty, nobody would. But having been through the storm, something in them has expanded. It's as if they've been forced to dig deeper into themselves and, in doing so, have discovered reservoirs of strength they didn't even know they had. The storms of life have this power. They force us to put down deeper roots. Scientists discovered something surprising about Biosphere 2, that experiment that created a sealed environment to study ecosystems. The trees inside grew quickly, but fell before they matured. Do you know what the problem was? There was no wind. Without wind resistance, the trees didn't develop what botanists call stress wood, the part that strengthens the trunk. It seems that we need life's resistances, those contrary winds, to develop our own stress wood. Have you ever tried to help a butterfly out of its cocoon? Those who have tried have discovered something sad. The butterfly dies or becomes deformed. Why? Because it is precisely the effort to break out of the cocoon that forces fluid into the butterfly's wings, strengthening them for flight. Struggle is not an obstacle to transformation, it is an essential part of it. When we try to avoid all difficulties, we may inadvertently be preventing the development of the strength needed for our next stage. An old Zen story tells of a farmer whose only source of labor, a horse, ran off into the mountains. "What bad luck," said the neighbors. "Maybe," replied the farmer. The next day, the horse returned with 2 wild horses. "What luck," the neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," said the farmer again. When his son tried to tame one of the wild horses, he fell and broke his leg. "What a tragedy," everyone commented. "Maybe," was the reply. Soon afterwards, the army came to recruit young men from the village, but the son was dismissed because of his broken leg. The story goes on like this, showing that our immediate assessments of what is good or bad are often limited. There is a beautiful metaphor in the process of how gold is purified. The goldsmith puts the raw gold into the fire, where it melts. The impurities rise to the surface, where they can be removed. The goldsmith knows the work is complete when he can see his reflection clearly on the surface of the liquid gold. The ancients said that this is how difficult periods in our lives work. They are moments when what is not essential in us comes to the surface, where it can be recognized and transformed. The fire of transformation reveals who we really are. Have you ever noticed that plants that grow in extreme environments, such as the desert, develop extraordinary characteristics? Cacti that can store water for months. Flowers that can bloom with minimal amounts of rain. The extreme conditions haven't stopped these plants from living, they've forced them to develop superpowers. Humans are not so different. It's often the most challenging circumstances that invite us to develop abilities and strengths that would otherwise remain dormant within us. Think about how you learned to walk. It was stumbling, falling, getting up, trying again. Nobody considers these falls to be failures, they're a natural part of learning something new. Somehow, when we grow up, we change our relationship with falling. We begin to see our imperfect attempts as evidence that there is something wrong with us, rather than recognizing that they are simply part of the process of learning and growing. What if we went back to seeing our falls through the eyes of a child? Not as failures, but as the necessary steps towards mastery. Nature is in no hurry, but it doesn't waste time either. A seed germinates when the conditions are right, not before, not after. A cocoon breaks at just the right moment, not a day too early, not a day too late. There is an intelligence in nature that respects the time needed for each transformation. We live in a culture obsessed with speed and efficiency, which makes us feel that we should solve everything instantly. But true transformation has its own rhythm. It can't be rushed, only honored. When Japanese potters repair broken objects, they use a technique called kintsugi. Instead of hiding the cracks, they fill them with gold, transforming the broken piece into something more valuable and beautiful than it was before. There is a profound philosophy in this. Our breaks and ruptures are not something to be hidden, but can become our most distinctive and precious parts. The wounds that life gives us, when treated with kindness and attention, don't diminish us. They make us more unique, more authentic, more human. We are conditioned to believe that change is something we do, like a project or a task. But perhaps the most profound change is something we allow to happen. Like water that finds its way between stones, not by force, but by gentle persistence. There is a necessary surrender in the process of transformation. A moment when you decide to stop fighting the current and start to realize where life is trying to take you. It's not giving up, it's a different kind of courage. There is a curious paradox at the heart of all true transformation. The more we accept where we are now, the freer we are to change. Sounds contradictory, doesn't it? But think about it. When we fight against our current reality, we spend all our energy on conflict, on resistance. This shouldn't be happening, I shouldn't feel this way, it should be different. These words are prisons in disguise. Acceptance is not passive resignation, it is a lucid recognition of what is, which releases energy for what can be. Have you ever noticed how quick we are to embrace the acceptable parts of ourselves, while trying to hide or deny the parts we deem unworthy? But true transformation begins when we stop dividing ourselves into good and bad. When we bring light to the dark parts. In nature, there is no waste, everything is nutrient for something else. Your anger has energy that can be redirected. Your fear contains wisdom about what you value most. Your shame can point to important values that you feel you have betrayed. When a snake is about to shed its skin, it becomes almost blind. Its eyes become opaque and its vision blurred. It hides because it is vulnerable. Many people going through profound transformations report something similar, a period where the old vision no longer works, but the new one hasn't fully formed yet. A kind of temporary blindness. If you're going through this now, it's not a sign that anything is wrong. It's a natural part of the process. Even without seeing clearly, you can trust the deepest instincts that guide you. The great tales of transformation in all cultures often include a moment of symbolic death. The hero must abandon their old identity before the new one can emerge. Think of how the butterfly must kill its caterpillar identity, or how the seed must die for the plant to be born. Perhaps you're experiencing something similar right now. A part of you needs to be left behind so that something new can emerge. This explains the grief that often accompanies major changes, even those we desire. Our bodies know something profound about transformation that our minds often forget. True change doesn't happen all at once. The body doesn't heal in a day. Muscles aren't strengthened in a single exercise session. The body knows the value of patient repetition, of gentle consistency. It understands that small actions, repeated over time, have immense cumulative power. And it knows that rest is not the opposite of transformation, it's an integral part of it. In moments of apparent inactivity, the body does its deepest work of regeneration. Ancient spiritual traditions speak of something called the dark night of the soul, a period when everything we thought we knew seems to fall apart. Values that guided us lose their meaning. Paths that seemed clear become covered in mist. It's a time of profound disorientation. But these traditions also assure us that this night, however long and frightening it may seem, doesn't last forever. It has a purpose: to clear the ground for a deeper, more authentic understanding of who we are and what really matters. There is a fascinating phenomenon called post-traumatic growth. Researchers have found that many people who have been through deeply challenging experiences report not only recovering their previous level of functioning, but going beyond it. They report a greater appreciation for life, more meaningful relationships, an increased sense of personal strength, new possibilities in life, and spiritual growth. This doesn't minimize the real suffering that trauma causes, but it reminds us that humans have a remarkable capacity not only to survive the storms of life, but to be transformed by them. One of the most liberating discoveries we can make is that we don't need to have all the answers to take the next step. In fact, expecting to have everything clear before moving is a subtle form of resistance. Life rarely gives us a complete map, it only gives us the next step, illuminated enough for us to set foot on it. It's by walking that the path reveals itself. The clarity we seek comes not from thinking and planning endlessly, but from action itself, however small. Have you ever gone through the process of forgiving someone? Not that superficial forgiveness of saying everything's fine when in fact it's not, but true forgiveness, which comes after fully recognizing the pain you felt. If you've been through this, you know that forgiveness isn't something we do for someone else, it's a gift we give ourselves. Transformation often requires the same kind of inward-looking forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself for not having been perfect, for having made mistakes, for having believed in things that you now see differently. Did you know that trees communicate with each other? Scientists have discovered that under the ground there is a vast network of fungi that connects tree roots, allowing them to share nutrients and information. The oldest and largest trees, called mother trees, support the younger ones. When one tree is sick, others send nutrients to help it. Perhaps there's a lesson here about the nature of human transformation too. We're not meant to change in isolation. We need each other. The most profound changes happen within a web of supportive relationships. In many ancient cultures, moments of great transformation were marked by rituals. These rituals weren't just empty ceremonies, they were recognitions of the importance of transitions in human life. They helped people process the end of one phase and the entry into another. In our modern culture, we have lost many of these rituals, and with that, we have lost powerful tools for navigating major changes. But we can create our own rituals. Small symbolic acts that honor where we've come from and open us up to where we're going. The body always tells us the truth, even when our mind wants to ignore it. That tension in our shoulders, the knot in our stomach when we think about a certain situation, the breath that becomes shallow when we confront certain issues. These aren't just random reactions, they're the body's wisdom trying to communicate with us. When we are in the process of transformation, the body often speaks first, and most honestly. Paying deliberate attention to the body, where it holds tension, where it feels expansive, can offer valuable clues about the road ahead. We've all experienced those moments of sudden clarity, when something that was confusing suddenly makes sense. These moments rarely come when we're pushing for a solution. They come when we take a step back, when we breathe, when we allow ourselves some space. The big changes in our lives often begin not with a forced decision, but with creating space for something new to emerge. A moment of silence in the morning, a walk without a mobile phone, a conversation without an agenda. These empty spaces are not luxuries, they are necessities for any authentic transformation. Have you ever noticed how, in moments of pressure or stress, we revert to our older patterns of behavior? The ones we learnt in childhood, even when we know they're no longer useful. This happens because the brain, under pressure, goes down the most familiar, the most used route. That's why consistent practice is so important when we're trying to change. It's not about grand heroic gestures, but about small moments of conscious choice, repeated day after day, that literally create new pathways in our brain. There's a transformative power in simply naming what we're feeling. I'm scared. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm angry. It sounds simple, but many of us spend our lives avoiding this direct contact with our emotions. Naming them not only validates our experience, but also creates a small space between us and the feeling. We are not the emotion, we are the consciousness that can observe it. This small space can be the start of a big change. One of the biggest obstacles to true transformation is our tendency to judge our inner experiences. I shouldn't be feeling this. I should have got over it by now. Why am I still struggling with this? These judgments not only increase our suffering, but also block the natural flow of change. Curiosity is the antidote to judgment. What's happening to me now? What is this emotion trying to tell me? What needs attention here? Questions like these open up space for discovery and movement. We live in a society obsessed with results, with visible milestones of progress. This can lead us to ignore or devalue the more subtle changes, the internal movements that precede any visible external transformation. Patience then becomes not just a virtue, but a necessity. As a wise gardener once said, nature never rushes its cycle, but always fulfills its purpose. Honoring the natural timing of your changes isn't procrastination, it's wisdom. One of the most powerful discoveries we can make is that resisting pain often prolongs it, while being willing to feel it can transform it. This doesn't mean that we should seek out suffering or drown in it. It means that when it arises naturally as part of our journey, we can choose to stop running away. We can say, okay, this is reality now. This is the pain I need to go through. There is tremendous courage in this simple act of recognition and acceptance. The way we talk to ourselves during difficult times matters deeply. If a dear friend was going through what you're going through, what would you say to them? Probably not the same harsh words we often direct at ourselves. You're so weak. You'll never make it. What's wrong with you? True transformation is facilitated not by merciless self-criticism, but by self-compassion. The decision to treat yourself with the same kindness you would naturally offer a good friend. There's a concept in psychology called the window of tolerance, the space where we can process experiences and emotions productively. When we are outside this window, either in hyperactivation, anxiety, panic, anger, or hypoactivation, shutdown, numbness, depression, our ability to integrate new information or make changes is compromised. Part of the work of transformation is learning to recognize when we have left this window and having the tools to get back into it. For some, this might be deep breathing or physical movement. For others, connecting with a friend or immersing themselves in nature. Many people find that in the midst of big changes, certain relationships in their lives also start to change. Some friends may not understand or support their new direction. Others may even feel threatened by your changes. This can be painful, but it's also natural. When you change the frequency on which you operate, some connections naturally strengthen, while others may dissipate. There's no need to force dramatic breakups, just gently observe how your social circle adjusts to reflect who you are becoming. One of the most challenging aspects of transformation is the moment when you begin to glimpse greater possibilities for your life. Not because this glimpse is negative in itself, but because it inevitably brings up fear. Fear of failure. Fear of success. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of letting yourself down. It's important to realize that this fear is not a signal to stop. It is a natural companion of human expansion. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward even when you feel it. The most profound transformations are rarely linear. They come in waves. There will be days when you feel as if you've reached a new level of clarity and strength. And there will be days when you feel as if you've gone back to square one. Both are part of the process. Genuine human growth happens in a spiral. We go through the same points again and again, but each time at a deeper level of understanding. The apparent setbacks are not failures, they are opportunities to integrate your lessons on an even deeper level. There's an old story about a man who wanted to turn rough stone into a beautiful sculpture. Day after day, he worked with his chisel and hammer. An onlooker asked, "How do you know what to cut and what to leave?" The sculptor smiled and said, "I don't add anything to the stone. I simply remove what doesn't belong, revealing the beauty that was already there." Perhaps human transformation is similar. It's not so much about becoming something totally different, but about stripping away the layers that aren't truly you, allowing your essential nature to shine through. We often think of transformation as a destination, an end point where we finally arrive. But the true masters of life know that it's more of an ongoing dance. As the philosopher Heraclitus said, no one enters the same river twice. The river is always changing, and so are we. Accepting this constant fluidity doesn't diminish our achievements. On the contrary, it makes every moment more precious, every choice more meaningful, because we know that we are actively participating in the ongoing creation of who we are. Have you ever noticed how some of life's greatest joys come not from avoiding discomfort, but from going through it for something that matters? The student who stays up all night to master a subject. The athlete who pushes their limits to reach a new level. The artist who revises their work countless times to express it exactly as they imagined. Our culture often sells us the idea that happiness is the absence of discomfort. But human experience teaches us something different. The deepest happiness comes from embracing the challenges that make us grow. There is a Japanese concept called ikigai, the place where your passion, mission, vocation, and profession meet. Some people are lucky enough to discover this early on. For most of us, it's a lifelong journey of self-discovery. And this search deepens during times of transformation. As you change, your ikigai may also change or reveal itself in new ways. The questions, what am I good at? What do I love to do? What does the world need? And what can I be rewarded for? Become valuable compasses in these times of transition. There is a powerful metaphor in the way traditional farmers look after the soil. They know that healthy soil is not created overnight. It takes years of patient attention, adding organic matter, allowing rest periods, carefully observing what works and what doesn't on that particular plot of land. Your own transformation is similar. It's a long-term job, done with continuous and gentle attention to the specific conditions of your life. And just as the wise farmer doesn't try to force growth by pulling up the plants, you too can trust the natural growth impulse within you. Scientists who study human resilience have discovered something surprising. It's not by avoiding challenges that we become resilient, but by facing them and discovering that we can overcome them. Every time you face a difficulty and find a way through it, you don't just solve that specific problem, you literally rewire your brain for greater confidence in the face of future challenges. It's as if each obstacle you overcome is a deposit in your resilience bank, available for you to draw on in difficult times to come. A Native American tradition talks about making decisions considering how they will affect 7 generations into the future. There is profound wisdom in this long-term perspective. Your current transformation is not just about you, here and now. The changes you make, the person you become, affect everyone around you, and potentially many who come after you. Without realizing it, you may be opening up paths that others will follow. You may be healing family patterns that have existed for generations. You may be planting seeds whose fruits will nourish people you will never meet. There comes a time in every journey of transformation when you realize that you are no longer the same person you started out as. Not because you've left your past behind completely, but because you've integrated it into a broader, more complete identity. It's as if you've found a way to encompass more of life within yourself. More complexity, more paradox, more compassion. This moment rarely comes with fanfare or external celebration. It's often a quiet, intimate recognition. Ah, here I am, fuller than before. Many spiritual traditions talk about the importance of service to others as an integral part of personal transformation. Not as a moral obligation, but as a natural expression of growth. As we expand, we naturally feel the desire to contribute, to give something back, to use our own journey to facilitate the journey of others. Perhaps you are already feeling this call. It's not necessarily about grand gestures or dramatic changes in your life. It can be as simple as being truly present for someone who is struggling, or honestly sharing the lessons you've learned. There's a particular beauty in recognizing that we never fully arrive, that there will always be more to discover, more to learn, more to become. This realization frees us from the pressure to reach some imaginary end state of perfection. Instead, we can embrace each day as part of an ongoing journey of discovery. As the poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Be patient with all that is unresolved in your heart, try to love the questions themselves." Don't look now for answers that can't be given. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will gradually, without realizing it, live a day away within the answer. When we look back on our lives, we often realize that the periods of greatest growth coincided with the times of greatest challenge. We wouldn't voluntarily choose these difficulties, but neither can we deny the depth and wisdom we gain through them. There is a special kind of gratitude that arises from this realization, not a superficial gratitude for what is easy and pleasant, but a deeper gratitude for the totality of the journey, with all its ups and downs, its joys and sorrows. A gratitude for the fire that forged you, for the waters that smoothed you. There's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Perhaps the most accurate version is, when the student is ready, the teacher is recognized. Teachers and lessons are constantly all around us, in nature, in our relationships, in our daily experiences, even in our challenges and failures. As you continue your journey of transformation, you may find that the whole world becomes your teacher. Every person you meet has something to teach you. Every situation contains a lesson. And perhaps the greatest wisdom is to remain an eternal student, always open, always curious, always ready to be surprised by what life has to offer. The strongest version of you is always trying to be born. Not because you're inadequate now, but because life is constant movement. It's expansion. It's the incessant impulse to express more fully what's already inside you. When you feel that restlessness, that discomfort that signals change, remember, it's not a mistake. It's not a punishment. It's an invitation. A call from the future. Your task is not to force the process or control it completely, but to create the conditions so that this new version of you can emerge naturally, in its own perfect time. Like the seed that already contains within itself everything it needs to grow into a magnificent tree, you already have everything you need to become who you are destined to be.